I believe that we will follow up what we have been discussing since the very morning. Europe is really on the crossroads. The world is heading in new directions, and Europe needs to adapt, and it is up to us to see it and take it as a challenge and stand up to this challenge. Now I would like to welcome to the floor Mr. Karel Havlíček, again, the Vice Chairman of the Chamber of Deputies of the Czech Parliament. So welcome back to the stage. And also I would like to invite Patrik Tovaryš, the Public Policy Manager for Central and Eastern Europe from Meta. In the past, he worked as a government official at the Office of the Government of the Czech Republic at the Ministry of Industry and Trade, where he led a team focusing on the regulation of online platforms and the preparation of Czech positions on the EU legislation. So, gentlemen, I wish you a good morning, and I would like to follow up, if you allow me, by to the questions by which we ended the previous panel, and that is the practice, the regulation in practice and the obligations that we have in relation to regulation. We have some obligations that are imposed on us by the European Union, that are imposed on us from the outside, and then on the other hand we have practical implementation in our national system. So it is up to you who starts the discussion. First of all, I would like to thank you for providing me opportunity to participate in this conference and at this debate. I am very glad for what I heard during the previous panel, that I heard that overregulation can hamper our local ecosystem. We in Meta have the ambition to become a leader in AI, and we want to built on open source. Our large language model is called Llama. As you have probably heard, this is one of the biggest models that is available in currently. It is quite successful. It has been downloaded in many copies. As far as the regulations are concerned, we see currently that some products that are already up and running in the world cannot be launched in the European Union because of over-regulation. So what should states do about this? I think it was already mentioned. They should collaborate with the sector, with the industry. They should inspire they get inspiration from other countries, because this train is really leaving, and I'm afraid that we will might not be able to catch up under the current conditions. But anyway, there is a chance, there is this opportunity, and OpenAI is one of the ways how we can still jump on that train, how we can provide local talents, local companies, and opportunities for growth and for developing their own products. Open source, that means OpenAI. Is it really realistic to open AI on our markets? Well, it is realistic, but I am afraid of the regulation. I participated in the Paris summit, or I followed the Paris summit, and I think it was an important event. Now, as I mentioned, the leader in Europe is France. They finally joined the declaration, but not the United States. G.D. Vance mentioned that it is overregulated for them, but Great Britain joined this declaration, and I think also Israel. And I think that these are three important iconic players that invest a lot of effort and money into this area. And I am afraid that we are losing direction. If you follow the declaration in France, then it included also the stress on the environment. So it talked about artificial intelligence, but still this was a kind of green declaration that included elements concerning regulations that are related to green technologies. So I think this is still overregulated in many aspects, and this costs us money, that costs us profitability of our companies, and in many cases big companies simply decide not to invest in Europe and they invest elsewhere. And another thing is that we are a country of small and medium-sized businesses, and this is the situation in many other European countries. Here the regulations have less impact, but still the efficiency of these companies is dependent often on individuals, on families, and if we overregulate also here, if we add additional obligations, then these small companies will simply cease to exist, and the young generation will not be willing to take over these family companies. So I'm really afraid about regulation, and we should not regulate too much. You ask whether it is possible to have open source. Well, we see that even companies that used closed models now decide to open their models, and it is not only American companies. We said also in China, with the introduction of DeepSeek, they invest massively into open source models, and there are also recommendations from OECD, UN, from the European Commission that we should build our solutions on open source models, and open source also is a key for using AI in the public sector. It has several advantages: data sovereignty, development of innovations, and efficient operation. Well, we should also ourselves the question, how will that be protected? We see benefits on one side, and I think this is the right way to go, but then on the other hand, you need to make sure that these centers are built in a safe, secure way, and state perhaps should participate and provide some security guarantees. This is not only about business, but this is also about public administration, security institutions, and in the current environment, current situation, these are important considerations. So we should make sure that we are able to secure these technologies. This is exactly what I wanted to ask you. Now it gave the impression that regulation is something that is bad, but security is also an important consideration, and we should make sure that our solutions are secure for the users, are secure also for the users who do not have access to education, for users that do not have skills that are needed to make sure that they are able to use these technologies securely. As far as Llama, the model from Meta, is concerned, each of the versions before it is launched goes through rigorous testing, recleaning, where we really try to get rid of individual problems and make sure that this source codes cannot be used for with bad intentions. Also, because it is an open source, these tests can be repeated by anyone. And I would also like to say, and I can give you a specific example of use of Llama in the public sector within the European Union. If the state or if the public sector starts building their products on Llama, I mentioned it has data sovereignty. That means they will be able to run their models on their own hardware, and they will not be sharing data with anyone else. They will not be sharing it with Meta, so they can use the product and improve it on the go. And another thing relating to the security, and here we are again getting back to the collaboration between EU and the US about setting up global standards, because China starts doing that. We do not have much time in this debate, so maybe I got into too much detail here, but I would like to follow up on what you just mentioned. You mentioned that the collaboration between the US and Europe is of key importance. I think that we all agree on that, and also the environment or the approach by the US and Europe to regulation in AI is different. So what steps can be taken to align our approaches? So what can Meta, what can Czech Republic, what can we here do to close these gaps? Well, I would like to start with what you mentioned at the very beginning of your question when you opened this topic. It is extremely important to align with the US, and I stress the importance of that, especially in this difficult time. Please, we should not try to create barriers. We should not try to build barriers in the area of security, in the area of economic collaboration, in the area of new technologies, transatlantic partnership. I think this is extremely important to keep this collaboration, to not build barriers. So we should be aware that governments change in Europe and in the US, but this partnership must stay because this is a crucial element that helps us to secure security. We are not able to create parallel structures, or it would not be that good. The other thing that what I would like to say is that we need to make a comparison and decide who is approaching this area better. And I think that we need to be fair and say that United States are taking better approach. They are results-oriented economy. We are social-oriented, but their approach is working better, and our model is not successful. This is reality. We should not be trying to blame someone. We should just simply get more inspiration from the United States. So I am saying, let us collaborate, let us give each other oxygen, and if the United States decide to go a certain way, then let's try to adapt the European model, because we are not a leader in this area, and as we are not a leader, we should inspire ourselves from what others are doing, and we should not try to create our own approaches. It is true that Europe is getting into a regulatory loop, and we should realize that. Vance mentioned that correctly. We should simply change our attitude. We should not focus on further regulation.
So, to my question, what we should do is follow what the US have already done. In the Czech Republic, of course, we are not those who can decide about everything. So, on our level, we should try and balance the measures that come in. Whatever is not necessary, do not introduce it. Stop gold plating. And try and be sometimes in opposition. We have people that are able to lead negotiations. We are able to promote our interests and our opinions. So if we see there is something that would not be beneficial to us, let's oppose it. And before I let Patrik Tovaryš respond, we have a question from the public. If we say that partnership with the US is crucial for us, is it so important for the Americans too, or at least to a certain extent? It is, even though they have a very hard negotiator in the leadership now. But even if you have negotiators who aim higher than they really need to, we need to have strong, self-reliant negotiators on our part too, and explain and oppose to them if needed. It's not true that the US would not need the EU. We, of course, need the United States for defense, and of course they have been expending much more money than we have, but they need a strong Europe as a strong partner. So it's bilateral. In economic collaboration, let's have a look at the business, at the trade balance. So definitely, United States need the European Union also for business, but they play at high stakes. They want to get the conditions closer to each other. If the imports to the EU from US are subject to 10% tariffs, while the European cars are exported with 2.5% tariffs, Trump shoots at 25%, and through negotiations, we can actually reach an agreement. Perhaps no tariffs will be increased. If we won't help if we are more protectionist than they are. So what's the position of Meta? Answer to your question, once again, is that Europe definitely is crucial as a market. It's 450 million people. What should the collaboration look like? The mindset in Europe must be changed. You can't sanction the American companies for being successful because the basic impact at the end of the day is on the local businesses, especially SMEs. You will know that the services by Meta are based on personalized and targeted advertising. Based on the AI Act, we were forced to introduce a subscription model, which is quite okay. It works in other areas. However, the European Commission said that in our case, this is not the right approach. We set a system of less personal aids, which basically had major impact. In the past, for €1 of investment, they generated €3.5. Now, for the same amount, they have to invest 3 times more. So in certain cases, of course, the regulatory approach is sort of discriminatory. We are an American company, and if we see discrimination on the part of the European Union, we will have to discuss it with the new American administration. I fully agree that what the member states can do is to generate pressure on the European Commission. This already has started. The European Commission, based on that, receded in the AI Liability Act. For the time being, Meta believes that we won't be willing to become subject to the stricter regulations. So in any case, we will have to try and set good relations between EU and the USA. So we have come to the end of the time that was made available to us. So very briefly, in conclusion, it's difficult to foresee what's going to happen. But what do you anticipate as the biggest progress or developments in the next months in AI? Well, 2-3 months in this segment can be quite wild. We are planning to invest some $60 to $65 billion into open source, which basically means that the model should be more effective, efficient, and more accessible. We will try to implement it in our products, such as Meta AI Assistant, which is not available in Europe. This brings me back to the previous question. How come that the UK was able to find the balance and launch this product on their market while it's not possible on the EU market? It's a matter of vision rather than the regulation is such. It's crucial to set up global standards that will be function everywhere. Do you hope that this is going to be successful? I hope very much. You said $65 billion. You can't respond to that, so it's quite obvious who's setting up the parameters. This is definitely the future, but there will be growing pressure for security. We need to realize that the times are uncertain, that are quite wild, and we have to learn our lessons. These are wonderful vehicles and tools, but of course we are not talking only about the business sector, but also about the public sector, and therefore a lot of state institutions that need to be protected against manipulation, mismanipulation. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining the first VIP talk of today.